Okay? So Ellen White said, but if there was one sin above another, which called for the destruction of the race by the flood, it was the base crime of amalgamation of man and beast, which defaced the image of God and caused confusion everywhere. God proposed to destroy by a flood that powerful, long-lived race that had corrupted their ways before him. Spiritual Gifts, Volume 3, page 64. Here's another quote. Ellen White said, every species of animal which God had created were preserved in the ark. The confused species, which God did not create, which were the result of amalgamation, were destroyed by the flood. Since the flood, there has been amalgamation of man and beast, as may be seen in the almost endless varieties of species of animals and in certain races of men. Spiritual Gifts, Volume 3, page 75. We're going to look at another quote. Ellen White said, it came to be a common practice to intermarry with the heathen. The enemy rejoiced in his success in effacing the divine image from the minds of the people that God has chosen as his representatives. Fundamentals of Christian Education, page 499. Cambridge Dictionary, efface, to remove something intentionally. So let's reread this back since we know what the definition of efface is now. It came to be a common practice to intermarry with the heathen. The enemy rejoiced in his success in removing intentionally the divine image from the minds of the people that God had chosen as his representatives. Notice the intermarrying. We're getting to this, folks. We're getting to what's going on here. So did God say that people cannot intermarry, as many white people have taught all over YouTube, like Brian Denlinger? Must blacks only marry blacks, and whites only marry whites, and Asian only marry Asian, etc. Did God state this? Did God say, if you marry the wrong skin color, you will face my wrath? Did he? Well, let's find out. Numbers chapter 12, King James Version, verse 1. And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. So according to this verse 1, it says that Miriam and Aaron, that's the brother and sister of Moses, they spoke against Moses. And the reason was because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. So in the eyes of Miriam and Aaron, Moses had committed a sin, for he had married someone that was not the skin color he was. Were they right? Did Moses indeed commit a sin by marrying a woman that wasn't a Hebrew? By marrying an Ethiopian? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to see. Because according to Ellen White and Brian Denlinger, Moses sinned. And God's going to correct him for it in a little bit. Well, let's see who's correct. Verse 2. And they said, hath the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very meek, above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses, and unto Aaron, and unto Miriam, come out ye three unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they three came out. And the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud, and stood in the door of the tabernacle, and called Aaron and Miriam. And they both came forth. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. Verse 7, my servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. Numbers chapter 12, verses 8 through 15. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently and not in dark speeches, and the similitude of the Lord shall he behold. Wherefore, then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow, and Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. Verse 11, and Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed, when he cometh out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, Heal her now, O God, I beseech thee. And the Lord said unto Moses, If her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days. And after that, let her be received in again. And Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people journeyed not till Miriam was brought in again. Now, notice who was in the wrong. God did not say, Moses, I'm going to put some leprosy on you because you have sinned. You have married someone of the wrong skin color. You're Hebrew. She's an Ethiopian, which is a black woman. You've sinned. Now you're going to get some wrath, Moses. Nope. Not how it happened. Instead, the ones who were pointing at Moses saying, Oh, you done this, you sinned, you're the bad one. Oh, you can't marry someone who's not a Hebrew. God said, You want to bet? And he threw the plague of leprosy down on Miriam. So who were the ones that sinned? Look at verse 11. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech you, lay not sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. It wasn't Moses that was a sinner. It was them, for saying that it was a sin for a Hebrew to marry an Ethiopian, because we've got to keep the races pure, according to Aaron and Miriam. And Aaron and Miriam were wrong, and God sent down the leprosy on them, showing that they were wrong, disproving the beliefs of people like Ellen White, Brian Denlinger, etc. Pictures of Ethiopians to prove their skin color and that Moses married a black woman, which disproves Ellen Ku Klux Klan whites keep the races separate doctrine. But I want you to keep in mind the quotes. We're going to put them back on your screen. I want you to keep in mind the quotes that we started the video with reading. Ellen White's quote from Spiritual Gifts, Volume 3, page 64. And Ellen White's quotes from Spiritual Gifts, Volume 3, page 75, because we're going to go further down the rabbit hole. Ellen White, amalgamation equals intermarriage black and white persons. In the United States early in the 19th century, scientists Josiah Nott and Charles Caldwell argued the races were separate species. Scientist Samuel Norton felt the Negro race was inferior. There was a sentiment among many Southerners and even some Northerners that Negroes were subhuman or even beasts. Sadly, this sentiment found its way into some Christian churches, where ministers began calling the intermarriage of blacks and whites the sin of amalgamation. Remember those amalgamation quotes from Mrs. White? We're getting to it. With the freeing of slaves in 1863, some feared the increase in intermarriage between blacks and whites, which they regarded as a moral outrage. Some Christian leaders warned that the amalgamation between blacks and whites would lead to the moral downfall of the United States. Mason Stokes writes, from as early as 1860, amalgamation, miscegenation, intermarriage, integration, those were the contemporary sins that would surely seal the nation's doom. Christians pointed back to the destruction of the earth during the flood and blamed it on the sin of amalgamation. For example, in 1860, Samuel Cartwright wrote of the amalgamation of the Adamic race with inferior races, which led to the corruption of those living before the flood. Some considered Negroes to be beasts. This idea was popularized by Buckner Payne, who published a pamphlet in which he asked, "The Negro, has he a soul or is he a beast?" His entire thesis was that Negroes were soulless beasts who did not descend from Adam. Like many of that era, he was concerned about the amalgamation that would occur if blacks were allowed to intermarry with whites. He writes, "A man cannot commit so great an offense against his race, against his country, against his God in any other way as to give his daughter in marriage to a Negro, a beast, or to take one of their females for his wife." In language reminiscent of Ellen White, Payne spoke of the crime of amalgamation that brought the flood upon the earth, and warned that if the country continued to allow interrace marriages, then it would expect the same fate as the antediluvians. People that favor this equality and amalgamation of the white and black races, God will exterminate. Antediluvian is talking about the flood. They're saying that if white people continue to marry black people, God will rain down judgment and drown the earth again and kill everybody once more. That's what they're saying. Okay? Then it goes on, it says, Minister Charles Carroll, in his book, The Negro, a Beast, agrees with Buckner repeatedly, referring to Negroes as beasts. In his later book, The Tempter of Eve, Carroll writes that amalgamation is the most infamous and destructive crime known to the law of God. And that's what Ellen White believed. Ellen White believed we are against amalgamation. God is against amalgamation. A black man is a soulless beast. That is what that woman taught. And they have declared her a prophet in a major religion, the Seventh-day Adventism. That woman, I'm going to call her Ku Klux Klan Granny, because that's what she was. Ku Klux Klan Granny. She was racist to the core. Now we're going to look at some images on the screen. We're going to show, this is a picture of Charles Carroll's book. Now remember, he believes the same doctrine as Mrs. Ellen White, the amalgamation doctrine. And here is his book. Look at this, folks. Here's a book. Here's Charles Carroll's book. The Negro, a Beast or in the Image of God. Look how he draws him. Big lips, big nose, disfigured head. Trying to say, look at him, look at him. He's trying to point at, are they in the image of God, or is that a beast? I'm going to show you another picture. Here is a picture from Charles Carroll's book. Look at this. He has a picture of white Jesus, pretty white Jesus, long hair and a beard and all that. And he has a white man, and he has a person. He draws a picture of a black person with a misshapen head and big giant nose and big lips. And he says, Christ, the Son of God. Man was created in the image of God. Is the Negro in the image of God's Son Christ? The same garbage that old witch, old Ku Klux Granny taught Ellen White. The same thing we're seeing right here, the bigoted racism of Charles Carroll's book, is the same thing that old witch, that old hag, that old Ku Klux Klan Granny, Ellen White taught. Look at that picture, folks. That's the way she viewed black people. That is most racist stuff I've ever seen. And that is what that old woman believed. The same thing that Carroll believed. That same doctrine, that is amalgamation. The doctrine of Mrs. White herself.